Hello, photography. I wanted to show you how to shrink yourself or miniaturize yourself to put yourself into a scene. Really, to start with this, you need to take some source photographs. You've got to come up with a plan. You're going to need a photograph of some kind of setting. I chose Monopoly, because I'm a big fan of Monopoly and board games, and I've been wanting to do something like this for a long time. So here is my Monopoly picture. All right. And then going from this composition, I got a photograph of myself, which is a little tricky to do because, I had to set my camera up on a tripod. Please excuse my beard. My goodness, I need to shave. So here I am in what vaguely could be a driving position with this car. So we'll see what we can do here. All right, so first thing we're going to need to do is I'm just going to make a rough cut of this. Honestly, it'd be better to use masks to do some of this work, but I want to show you just a simple, quick way to do this. I'm not even sure if you can really use masks in Photopea. I know you can do it in Photoshop, but this will work. This will work for now. So let me go ahead and select this. And by the way, I just used a selection tool. I'm just going to go around. I'm just going to make a loose cut right now. I want to get it into the other canvas. And if you hold this, there's some options for the way that you're selecting your area. Sometimes the lasso is a great tool. That's just kind of freehand. A lot of times I use the polygonal lasso, but that's better for like geometric things. And then the magnetic lasso is pretty cool, but I always found that it sort of sticks to things that aren't what you're trying to copy, so I tend to go with this one. But it's right here, and if you hold the button down, these will appear for you. Okay, now I have this all selected already, so I'm going to go ahead and hit copy, and then we're going to paste it right in. Boom, there I am. Done! I'm done. No, I'm not done. Let me close this. And now we need to do some work with this. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the layer and I'm going to hide one. I'm doing that just because I want to be able to go back to my original in case I mess it up. And I need to shrink myself a little bit. I'm a little too big right now. So let's go to transform. Oh, wait, nope, sorry. Edit transform, not that other transform. Then we're going to go to scale and then while I'm doing this, I'm holding the shift button. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm holding the shift button and I'm going to shrink myself. Yeah. Oh, that's too big. You know what though? I need to get closer. I am too far away right now. So let's get the old navigator going. I need to get in really close because I need to see how I'm going to fit into this car. Let me get a little bit further out. Yeah, that's a little better. I can see what I'm doing a little better. And the other thing that I'm going to do, just to make it easier to like get my sizing right, is I'm going to drop the opacity down. So now I can see myself. And then let's go ahead and shrink some more. Still, I think need to be smaller. Yeah, I'm getting close now, I think. That seems about right to me. I think so. So we'll go with that. Let's make myself dense again. And then I think I need to maybe I won't rotate. I think this will work. Okay, I want to erase some of this extra stuff. So let's get in a little bit closer. Well, that got all pixely. Look at that. And different ways of doing that. You can use your eraser tool. you might want to use a softer brush when you're doing it. So this is one way to do it. There we go. And you can just be really careful when you go to erase it. Another way that you can do it that might be a bit more efficient is to use say the polygonal lasso and to go around, and each time I'm clicking, I'm setting a little point. Just like this. And it does a pretty darn good job. And then we need to close the loop. If you're doing this with masks, it'd be a little bit easier because you could like go back and forth between different areas that you're masking, but this works too. Then I'll delete that. And let's move over here a little bit. Do the same thing. I'm a little bit concerned that that's still selected over there. Usually in Photoshop, that'll disappear after you start up a new one, but we will see what happens. Now, the only problem with using the polygonal lasso is it is going to make a harsh edge. And as you can see, at this point of the photo, for both the car and myself, it's really more blurry. And so you don't want a harsh edge. That harsh edge is actually going to cause some problems. So what we can do, and this will be more of like something that we do when we're like finalizing it, is we can blur the edges a little bit of my image, and that will help blend it in better. All right, delete that. Let's go on the other side. This is kind of intense, I think, for my computer. I'm lost. It's coming back. Okay. All right. Just a little more. All right. There we go. All right. My Photopea, of course, you're using it online, so if your internet connection's a little slow, it can get some issues. Oh, let's trim that beard. It's like I shaved. There's some wild whiskers there. All right. Trim, trim, trim. We don't need those folds. I'm doing this kind of quick. You know, you can do a much better job when you're doing this on your own. I just don't want it to take forever. And I still have a little more to remove. Oh, I can make myself a little thinner now. And almost done. Okay. So now that is cut away. And let me go ahead and deselect this now. So we should be fitting a little bit better. Am I going the wrong way here? There we go. So let's double check this now. And now I need to figure out how I am going to erase this part to make it a bit more convincing. I actually think I need to be a little bit lower. Probably like that. Okay. And so now I'm going to go back to having some transparency, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And I need to be thoughtful about how I'm erasing to show this edge of the car. So I'm going to use a soft eraser like I had kind of set up before. And I'm going to leave my fingers, but I'm going to erase that little bit there that I messed up with. So I'll have the hand going over the front. And then I'm going to erase this area. And, you know, if you mess up, you can always step backwards. Sometimes it's good to take little breaks. Here, let me make this solid again so I can see what I've done. Let's erase this now. It makes it a little less confusing. Sometimes I go back and forth between like having it opaque and having it transparent. I need to be able to see through myself though to get this edge here. Oh, I think I took off a little too much there. All right. It's looking pretty good. Like I said, you can do a better job of this when you're doing it on your own. I just want to make sure that you could see what. I just want to make sure you could have an idea of how to do this. Okay, let's zip out a little bit. Take a look. It's looking better. It's coming along. Okay. Now, here's some things I'm noticing. I need to continue my body right here. I got a little bit cut off. There's a lot of different ways that you could do this, okay? I could paint this area. I could clone stamp this area. I'm probably going to clone stamp. But what I'm going to do, just to make it a little bit easier to fit this space, is I'm going to use my selection tool. And I'm going to go right in here like this. And so I'm just kind of plotting out the area that I'm going to end up filling. This is helpful because it kind of restricts where I end up painting so I don't make a bunch of crazy mistakes. And then I can take my clone stamp. You can also use the paintbrush too. But if I'm using the clone stamp, I think I got it here. Now I'm going to hit Alt, click, and then we can paint just like this. And so I just want to make sure I'm picking from an area that's similar in tone. The nice thing about the clone stamp versus the paint tool is the clone stamp is going to give you the noise that's in the picture, whereas the paintbrush wouldn't. It would just be a flat color. And so if you're really looking to be a bit more realistic, you need to think about things like that too. Oh, got a little bit of my arm. Let's backfill that. Okay, so we're just pretending that this is like the edge of the car and I'm sitting inside. Now, there's some awkwardness in the light here, and so we're going to need to fix that. But before I do that, I want to smooth the edges of my arms to blend them in a bit more. This is the blur and sharpen tool, so I'm going to use the blur tool. And here again, I want to use a nice soft brush. Maybe like halfway. Probably should go a little bit large. Oh, not that big. Maybe like that. We'll see what that looks like. Yeah, that'll work. I might have overdone it a little bit, but I just want to kind of skim over the edge because you don't want to appear cut out. Yeah, that's actually pretty convincing. Get a little blur around here. This is too harsh. I'm going to blur this, blur this, blur this. Oh, okay. Got some more blurring to do. Blur this edge. In Photoshop, you can also adjust whether it just blurs or if it blurs and darkens or blurs and lightens, which is kind of a nice tool or nice feature. I don't see that there's a way to do that in here, but that's okay. Just get rid of some of these pixels just so it blends just a bit more. Okay. It's looking a little more integrated now. Yeah, I think that works out pretty well. Let's zip out. So we're getting there. We're getting there. We're starting to make it look more realistic. Few more things I want to do. I want to get some of these shadows on the car fixed. So let's do this. We're going to go to the burn tool. And just like in Photoshop, you can adjust whether you're darkening the shadows or the midtones or the highlights. Let's start with the midtones. I want to get a little, ooh, we need a softer brush though, don't we? Maybe even softer than that. We definitely need a little, no, that's too big, a little smaller. Yeah, let's get a little bit of a shadow underneath the hand here. A little shadow. That might have been a little too much. I'm going to go in here and just fade that shadow a little bit. Yeah, that looks a little better. Kind of got a harsh edge there. I'm just trying to blend that in a little bit. I might have overdone that a little too. I can fade it. You can also do this through opacity, but fading works too. And now, and by the way, what I'm doing, I should have said this. I'm on the background layer now. So obviously, if I'm darkening the car, that's on a different layer than I am. So I need to go back to that layer. Now this is a problem. I've got to darken this up because I would be blocking a lot of this light here by sitting here. And it's pretty much done what it can do with the mid tones. Ooh, let's darken this a little bit too. Probably should darken my hand a little bit. Now let's go into the highlights and let's darken those highlights too. Okay. Yeah, that's better. Let's zip out again. So now we're starting to get like some sense of me actually being in place in the car. You know, I'm interacting with the background a bit more through the shadow and through the focus. I'm a little too sharp. You might notice that, you know, this car is in a little bit of more of a blur, even though it's the focal point. It's just where it is in the scene. You know, obviously I've shrunk down quite a bit, so I'm going to look a lot sharper than that car is, which is very small in the other picture. So we need to blur me a little bit. Now, before I do this, I'm kind of crazy about this, but I make a lot of layers. I'm going to hide this just so it's easy to like compare and go back and forth. You know, this is sort of my process. You don't have to do this. But let's go into, let's do the Gaussian blur. I think I said that right. And that's way too blurry. But let's back it up a little bit. We want to have like a happy medium here. Yeah, I think right there. Okay, so we're going to say okay. So now, just so you can see the before and after. Now it looks blurry there, which isn't great. But if I zip out, you can see it works pretty well. So, a few more things I want to do. There's noise in here, okay? There's noise in this out of focus area and in this picture, the Monopoly board, that isn't in this picture. So, let's go back into filter and we're going to add a little bit of noise. Not that much. And you know what? We better get closer when we look at this. All right, I guess it won't let me do that, but let's get nice and close. Maybe a little closer. And let's match it. Okay, that's crazy. Just a little. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Okay. I still might want to blur myself a little bit more. But, oh, look at me. I am riding in that car. I'm zipping down the street. Not bad, not bad. Now there is something else that I'm seeing here. When I'm out like this and I'm seeing the whole scene, the color balance of myself here is a bit more blue. It's a bit more cool, whereas the color balance out here is a bit more yellow or more warm. So I want to fix that. Let's go into, well, you know what? Let's just try auto color and see what happens. That might, that kind of fixed it. That kind of fixed it. In fact, what I can do, and this is a neat little trick, after you do something, pretty much no matter what it is, you can go into edit, you can fade what you just did, what your last step was. You can't do that after you make another step though. So right now, we color balanced, so I'm going to fade that just a little bit to get a little bit more of a happy medium. All right. And then Let's boost that contrast a little bit, because I have a lot of contrast in myself with the lighting. Oh, well, I didn't want to do that much. I don't want to be too harsh. You know what? I'm going to reset that. I just want to drag this over a little bit. Brighten it up a little. Maybe we can make the dark values just a little bit darker. That looks, I think we have it. I think that's it. I think that looks good. I'm going to save that. I'm going to export it as a JPEG. And then I'm also going to download my PSD file. This is so it's really easy in the future if I want to go back in and re-edit things, rework things. It retains all my layers if I save it as a PSD. So that is a really important thing to do. It's going to be a bigger file, 73 megabytes, but it's worth it. When you're sending me the file, give me the JPEG. I don't want that big bulky PSD file right now. But if you need to like re-edit things or add things or fix things, keep the PSD so that you have it. And the nice thing about saving it as a PSD file is you'll also be able to open it in Photoshop later when you have access to the full-on Photoshop again. I hope that helped. I know that took a little bit, but you know, I think it worked out pretty well, and I'd like to see what you come up with. All right, have a great day.